Dawn light. Welcome to Forfellingness Belysning illumination from the ancestors, guiding your path today.
Every day, someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder disappears, shattering a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
Good morning. Happy Thursday to you. I hope this week is going well for you and that everything that you're planning is coming to fruition. For you're laying the seeds that are growing. So this week I want to talk, or today I should say, today I want to talk about the Antlered Path. And what a wonderful opportunity for us to learn and grow from this. Before I get started today, I want to say a huge shout out and a huge thank you to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed. Thank you so much. For those of you who haven't, today's the day. Go ahead and hit that button and let's help us to push this message even further out there on the internet, that those who may need it can find it. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends and family at New Reality TV. NewRealityTV.com is a streaming channel dedicated to the spectrum of spiritual perspectives that can help us along our path and hopefully provide us with something that resonates. It just feels fulfilling and helps us to evolve. It's Longhouse, a place where voices gathered and stories endured. Trinity Road website builds that hall in the ether, where your message stands strong against the winds of time. Begin your journey. Embrace your journey with them through your hall, through our website at akuLfhednar.com/sponsors. And there you'll find all of you need to know about all of those who have stood up with us. So today we're talking about the Antlered Path, and what exactly does that mean and how does that apply to our modern day life? Well, as you can imagine, with the Antlered Path, there's two pieces to it. There's the first part, and that is that it kind of goes in different directions sometimes unexpectedly. Sometimes we have to be quick on our feet and recognize those things that are changing in our lives and being able to adjust for that. So a lot of people worry. They concern themselves with change. They fear change. Well, firstly and foremost, we have to remember that fear is just imagination. Okay? There is no real thing called fear. We simply make it within our mind. Now, sometimes there are things that are coming into our sensory input that are providing enough feedback that we are genuinely concerned. But more often than not, the things that we're experiencing are not that fearful in of themselves, simply the perspective we're taking, and this imagination that is feeding our sensory input. Imagination alters all sensory input. To the level at which it affects it, that's another story. And to the effect that our mind allows that to process through our emotions and certainly the whole thought process into our memories, that we can control. So we have some skin in this game. So as always, I wanted to say, firstly and foremost, again today, I'm very apologetic for being late this morning. got a rough start this morning, and I do want to give a huge shout out to all of you who have survived or are surviving or know someone who is surviving breast cancer. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and of course we wear pink to show our support for those. We wear red to show our support for those spirits who have been taken from us, whether they to be returned, we either on the physical plane or the spiritual one. Missing and murdered indigenous women and children, the numbers are insane. So, and they're unreasonably not balanced in this world. So, for those of you who support MMIW, I am with you. I support you wholeheartedly, and if there is any organization, as you saw in the beginning of the show, any organization that does so much for women, it's the Alaska Women's Resource Center. So check them out. Okay, so talking about energy, and we're talking about absorption, and we're talking about how our lives can seem to be an antlered path. An antlered path, of course, for those of you who have ever seen antlers, they kind of jut off different directions, and sometimes that path may sprout again and split. So our journey through this lifetime is fraught with changes, with alterations to our trajectory. Are they bad? No. They may seem unwanted, uncomfortable at the time that we're going through them, but they are a part of our evolutionary journey. Self-reveal, for those of you who are maybe new to the show, in earlier part of my life, I spent addicted to heavy narcotics. I was a heroin addict and a cocaine addict until I overdosed in 1989. In 1989, the gods sent a pair of individuals to help me clear myself of the drug and the need for the drug, the desire for the drug, and move forward in my life. Almost 7 months, almost to the day following my cleansing, I would meet and marry my shield maiden, of which we have now spent 35 plus years of moving forward, of growing, of learning, of loving. So the Antlered Path shows us that even though there are going to be parts in our lives, parts of our existence, experiences that we have that may or may not seem to be something that we're really interested in, there is a method, there is an end goal. We are learning, growing, evolving as we go through this trajectory we call life. The other part of an antlered path, and this is where I'm alluding here, is this idea that sometimes these paths may be uncomfortable. Sometimes these paths will lead us through a time in our existence, our physical existence, where it's not comfortable. There, sharp pains, there may be unpleasantries, there may be angst and anger and stress and frustration and all types of unwanted states of mind, or unwanted emotional states that kind of appear with these times in our lives. But know in your heart that this too will pass, and this too is meant to be for you to be at the other side. So the key when we're talking about these unwanted situations, unwanted, uncomfortable parts in our lives, the key is to take away the learning, the lesson. As I've looked back at my overdose in back in the 80s, I can now look back at that and know what the lesson was. And the lesson was that I don't have to stay on my path. I can choose to change. I can choose a different life, a different path altogether, a different trajectory through life, a different destiny at the end. So I have control of that. And that was one of the very powerful lessons that I've taken away hindsight from my time, I call it my dark decade, from about my 14th birthday to about my 24th. Excuse me. And I think of those times as going, what could I have learned? What could I have done differently? Of course, hindsight being the best vision. It's a great opportunity to sit down. And now, when I find myself in a position where I feel overwhelmed, some of the old emotional states come back in memory from those days of drug usage. And I kind of look at that and I go, well, wait, I still have a choice now. This situation, as it's unfolding before me, doesn't dictate how I respond to it. I'm always reminded when we talk about emotional responses and how we respond to things in our lives, I'm always reminded of a wonderful story my great-grandmother told me when she told me about the three Norse sisters. Now, the Norse sisters in Norse legend and lore were very similar to the fates of the Greek stories. And these three sisters, the eldest, of course, being Urd, the middle sister, of course, Skald, and then the baby, or the youngest of the three, Verdande, was her name. And Verdande, her thing was she was weaving a tapestry of our lives. And it didn't include those things that you would assume it included, such as the conquerings and the victories and all of the things we had, the wins. But that's not what was included in her tapestry. What was included in her tapestry was our responses, the way we responded to those things in our lives, to those experiences. So if we had a victory, did we over-celebrate? Did we put the other person down? Had we maybe competed in a sport or something, and we put them down because we won, right? That's a response to an event in our lives. And yes, it's fine to celebrate, but is it fine to destroy someone else in the process? And that answer is resoundingly no. So Verdande sewed this tapestry of how we responded. Did our responses apply or align with the 9 noble virtues of the Norse? If they did, they were in the tapestry. If they didn't, that was in the tapestry. And then in much the same kind of mentality that we read about in the Christian Bible about judgment, Skald, the middle sister, would enact some level of judgment on us based on that tapestry as to which hall we would then reside in until Ragnarok. So it was a pretty important deal. So our responses were very important, and our responses is what kind of guides us on this antlered path. So super important that we remember, or that I guess my lesson for today is the idea that we have control. We can make a choice. We can decide. When something, some feeling, idea, thought process isn't serving us anymore and we want to change, we have that power. We have that authority to change our path, to change our destiny. and we can certainly do that. All right, before we get too far, it's time for the runes, and today we're going to ask the question of what is our guidance for today? What is it that we're looking for? All right, we have drawn a rune. I have my thumb on the back so that I can't see it yet either. This allows the gods to continue to answer my question or make sure it's more appropriate. And so today's rune, Ingus. Now, Ingus is a wonderful rune because it is the rune of wholeness. So we're thinking about personal development and growing, and so taking some time for ourselves, taking time for just that internal growth, gestation, if we will, to really allow the lessons of our past to kind of percolate into our memories, thereby feeding our imagination, thereby feeding our sensory input. So it's all kind of part and parcel, but remember, we have the choice. So I need to take a very quick commercial break. When we come back from break, I want to finish out today and talk about how we can apply this understanding of the Antlered Path to our personal modern life. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
The air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
Thank you so much for taking that quick break with us. I do want to remind you that today's show is proudly supported by Trinity Road website. You got to check them out. Every hall, every clan had their markings, had their longhouse, and that longhouse was the most important part. So here in the ether, that's Trinity Road's website. So check them out. Again, you can use this link and just change videos to sponsors, and there you can find all the information about them and all of our other wonderful sponsors here on AKU Media. So today we're talking about the Antlered Path, and we're talking about how we have a choice. We get to choose where the pieces spur off of the antler and which direction we're going to go, what we want to do. We are in charge up here and down here. We get to make that choice. Now, don't get me wrong. We've talked about it before where DNA and some of our earlier influential energies coming from others in our lives, those of authority, have brought to us this set of virtues, values, and belief systems that we can constantly challenge, or we should constantly challenge. Why do I believe that? Why is this? What is the value to me of this feeling, of this peace? And we validate them. And we continually evaluate them to ensure that they now meet what it is where we're going, where we want to go. Remember, we're in charge here. So when other people say, oh, you need to be stressed out because this is really... we don't have to subscribe to that. We can say, yeah, okay, you can do that. Have a good time. I don't have to subscribe to that. I can be me. I can find another path, right? So every situation that we encounter, every experience, every challenge, obstacle, everything, always has a multitude of perspectives. There's never, ever one way to go through an infinite life. Now, infinite life means that we have an infinite number of opportunities, of path changes, of directional changes that we can take to each and every experience. We don't have to go through, we don't have to do it the same way we just did it 2 minutes ago. We can change, we can evolve, and that's part of the evolutionary process, is learning and growing and just embracing a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing this particular situation. So there's all kinds of value in understanding who we are. So our reminder today about the Antlered Path is that we get to make those decisions where those branches are. Or when we're not going to allow a branch. Branch starts and we say, nope, I'm not going there. This is the idea of altering our path, of plotting our destiny. So it's super important that we recognize the idea that we're in charge, that we get to make the decisions, that we decide how and where and how much we feel, right? Now, a lot of times we may say, oh, but this thing was so overwhelming and it was so emotional and this, that. Okay, the sensory input could have given you quite an opportunity to express our emotions or to recognize our emotions. We have to remember that the state changes that we go through could be an evaluatory process. We could be saying, is this how I want to feel? Or is this how I want to think? We have to remember that we're living in, our experiences are infinite. There's an infinite level of possibilities. You could find $100 bill on the sidewalk this morning. Are the chances high? No. But do they exist? Yes. There is always the possibility. Everything is possible. When we start applying a little energy of hope, anything's possible. And we have to live our lives that way, thinking that anything is possible. Stop thinking, oh, that'll never happen. I'll never win the lottery. I'll never find someone who is, the one. You will. Right? It's having hope. It's pushing that energy of hope into the forefront of our minds, using that power of hope within the imagination to now spur the way we see the world around us. So we have a choice. We can make that decision, and we can make that decision to travel the way we want to go. All right? So it's super important that we recognize that in our lives. All right? And that's really what the reminder of today is, Thor. Now, of course, Thor's Day, we recognize the strength of Thor. Thor is, according to the Norse legend, Thor is an amazing god in that he has amazing strength and is able to protect Midgard from the giants and all of that threat that would come upon us. However, Thor really demonstrates to us, or to those of us who study him, he demonstrates that we have the fortitude, the mental fortitude, to force our path along our desired destiny. We can make that change. We can begin to look at things differently. We can begin to look at whatever it is in a different way. So, we're in charge. All right. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. And again, I apologize for being a little tardy this morning. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow when we'll embrace the energy of Freya. For Freya, obviously one of my favorite goddesses, it just provides us with a wealth of understanding of this thing we call life. So, please be sure to dial in tomorrow, 7 o'clock a.m. Here in Alaska, and we will talk about Freya. But today I want you to embrace the strength and decide your own destiny. Pick your antlered path. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to feel? It's all up to you. All right? All right, my friends, we will see you again tomorrow, where we will embrace the power of Freya. Love and light, my friends.
Watching Ulfhednar's Belysning, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska ulfhednar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for joining us today.